a warning that a worldwide ATM hack.
A Turkish man who used his computer to loot millions.
There's this mass attack, stolen bank information or information.
Bracing for a sophisticated attack on banks across the globe.
35-year-old Erşan Findikoğlu.
In December 2013, a man was arrested for robbing banks and individuals of $55 million through ATM hacks. The man was Erkan Findikoğlu, and he did things ranging from computer intrusion conspiracy, access device fraud, to leading and organizing 3 cyber attacks between 2011 and 2013. In other words, he hacked ATMs, stole banking information, organized thousands of ATM transactions through his foot soldiers, and partied like there's no tomorrow. In order to understand how the ATM hacks happened, we need to understand where it all started from for Mr. Findikoğlu. Born in Turkey in the late 70s to middle-class parents who lived in Kastamonu, Erkan, like every other young man, had dreams of making it big. After completing his military service, he began searching for a job but didn't have much luck because no one wanted to hire a high school dropout. Erkan finally decided to leave his family and work in Bodrum. He found a job at a bar in the summer of 2005 with the help of his friends. Although working as a bartender was not his dream job, the pay, coupled with the tips, was just enough to cover his rent and other daily expenses. His passion for computers came at a much later age, and he was able to afford a computer when he started working at the bar. Despite his very busy work schedule, he found time to do what he loved. When he came home, he would immediately turn on his computer and delve into a whole new world. He began to hone his digital skills, and in a short time, he had learned all the technical details about computers and websites. Working as a bartender in 2006, he met a hacker group and became a member. His primary assignment was to detect vulnerabilities in target websites and take over such websites. In his spare time, he would dedicate all his efforts to bringing down any site the group had chosen as a target. After a short time working with this group, he got noticed by the managers of the group and developed a good rapport with them. Once he became close to them, he started trying to learn the secrets of making money online. The members of the group were mostly Russians, and they knew more about the internet than Erkan. They knew how to obtain credit card numbers, bank account information, and any other personal details needed to hack into a person's bank account. With time, Erkan gained their trust, and they began teaching him the art of hacking. He made his first profit of $500 in October 2006 by obtaining the credit card details of an American. This first hit was the beginning of Erkan's journey as a hacker. Earning $500 in a single night by pressing a few keys on a computer keyboard was an eye-opener for Findikoğlu. The money he earned that night was almost equal to his 1-month salary, and he earned it without breaking a sweat. Now he wanted more of this easy money. Now, whenever he came home from work, he would immediately turn on his computer looking for a new victim. In less than 2 months, Erkan had gotten hundreds of credit card numbers and transferred about $15,000 to his account. Making money was now very easy for him. He decided to quit his bartending job at Bodrum to become a full-time hacker. After all, why should he waste his time working at a bar when he could earn so much more on his computer? Working together with his Russian allies, Erkan was able to access the customer information of 5 banks in Indonesia, where he had noticed security breaches. This huge profit was a big win for him, and it strengthened his resolve to make more money. After working with the Russians for a long time, Erkan decided to leave their group and form his own hacker group. He left with some other Turkish hackers, formed his own group, and continued his nefarious activities with one major change. He was now the boss. Being the boss meant he could call the shots and do things differently. Erkan and other members of his group obtained account information from many famous banks like the Bank of Oklahoma, First National Bank, and even the Old National Bank. Every day, they hacked thousands of people's accounts and stole their card details. However, dealing with this information one by one was a waste of time for Erkan and his group. Erkan then approached the Russian group he left and made them an offer. He offered to sell the account information his group had stolen to the Russians. They, in turn, will give back a certain percentage of the proceeds to Erkan and his group via wire transfers. The Russians accepted this offer since this initiative would reduce the risk of both groups being caught. According to court documents, this cooperation with the Russian hackers was so effective that the gangs had already cleaned out more than 4,000 ATMs in 20 countries 2 months before Erkan's arrest. Within that short period, more than $4 million was withdrawn, and 1% of the funds went to Erkan and handed to him through strawmen in Romania, Turkey, and Ukraine. Erkan had created a system that was very effective. Obtaining the credit card details of victims was just the first step in his series of operations. After obtaining the card details of the victims, the hackers had to hack into the bank's system. Once in, they made the account balances of their victims to be dramatically increased to allow for large excess withdrawals. Then they disseminated the stolen debit card details to cashing crews around the world. The cashing crews had one job: to withdraw tens of thousands of dollars from different ATMs around the world. Describing the operations of the cashing crew, Ken Primo said it was a very smooth operation.
Put your card in, put your PIN in, take out your limit.
Back in Turkey, Erkan was monitoring the activities of the cashing crews, Primo said.
He was watching so that he could tell who was withdrawing how much, so that he'd know how much money he was supposed to get back.
Erkan's methodology was so perfect that after the cashing crew had gone 3 rounds, Erkan had figured out which ATMs carried the most cash, and he instructed the cashing crews to withdraw from those ones first. A cashing crew in New York once withdrew more than $2 million in a single operation. The cashing crew usually sent back most of the money to him via wire transfers, electronic currency, or personal deliveries of cash. One thing that made it hard to catch these guys was the fact they were dealing with cash. Dave Beach, who runs the Secret Service office in New York, says most of the money is still yet to be recovered. In his words,
"Gone. Just gone. It was cash. It's untraceable."
As Ken Primo said, Erkan's group conducted multiple transactions around the world. His first major hit and his most notable operation was on February 27, 2011, in a hack termed Unlimited Operations. He and his crew were able to cash out $10 million through 15,000 transactions in 18 different countries. This operation targeted cards issued by JP Morgan Chase & Co. and used by the American Red Cross to provide relief to disaster victims. His second major hit was in December 2012. He and his group were able to cash out about $5 million from more than 4,000 transactions in over 20 countries. Then, the biggest of his operations took place on February 19, 2013. During this operation, Erkan and his crew were able to make 36,000 transactions in 24 different countries within a space of 10 hours for a take of $40 million in cash. His last 2 operations specifically targeted cards issued by Bank Muscat in Oman and cards issued by the National Bank of Ras Al Khaimah in the United Arab Emirates. Now you can appreciate the magnitude of Erkan's operations. They were really unlimited operations. It is often said that the first rule of ill-gotten wealth is to stay under the radar so as not to get noticed by the authorities. However, when you're making as much money as Erkan and his group, it's almost impossible to stay quiet. Erkan, who now earned millions of dollars, frequently went on holidays abroad, living the life he had always dreamed of. He was now well known among the hacking community. He used nicknames such as Seagate, Predator, and Orion in the virtual world. He became famous for photos he often took with stacks of dollars while laying down. He once threw a bag of money onto his parents' balcony while he was in a hurry to go to a party and called his mother to tell her that he would come for the money the next day. The total sum in the bag was around $400,000. The stolen money was placed in offshore accounts, transformed into electronic money, and used to purchase jewelry and other luxury goods. Erkan Findikolu was not the only one in his group who was living an exotic lifestyle. Other members of his group were also living large and attracting attention to themselves. Some of them even carried large sums of money with them around. It was reported in some court documents that one gang member was once arrested by the police and was found to be carrying almost $1 million in cash. At this point, Erkan could be compared to the golden fish that has no hiding place. His operations caught the eye of the authorities, and they were on the lookout waiting for him to slip up so they could apprehend him. Even the FBI took note of Erkan and his group. It all started in 2007 when he was still a member of the Russian hackers group. The group took over the website of the Department of Defense Pentagon. The FBI, while investigating this incident, found out that most of the hackers who were members of the group were in Russia, while some other members lived in Turkey. Since then, they began trailing Erkan and his group. Erkan probably knew they were onto him because he carefully covered his tracks online and avoided the United States and other European countries, since it would be very easy for them to arrest and prosecute him. He even advised an accomplice not to travel to the United States under any circumstances. In his words, "You will be arrested." Erkan was right. He knew the moment he stepped foot on American soil or any other European country, he could easily be arrested. Speaking on the case, Robert Sika, a special agent in charge of the Secret Service's New York field office, said, "Foreign hackers know their safe havens and some are more challenging to get to, but inevitably, they make a mistake." Even though Erkan knew the authorities were onto him, he continued living an exotic lifestyle. He and his group had single-handedly emptied more than 400,000 accounts and stolen more than 200,000 credit card details. The authorities were onto them. The police had even infiltrated their group and were collecting intel on all the members of the gang, but Erkan and his group didn't know this. Erkan once traveled to Russia to receive payments for the accounts and credit card information he had sold to the Russians, and to see his girlfriend when the police noticed a large sum of money he was carrying in his suitcase. Erkan claimed he was a businessman, but could not explain the source of the money. He eventually had to pay a $2 million bribe to the police and return to Turkey. This marked the beginning of the end for Erkan Findikoglu. Personally, I was disappointed by the way Erkan's story ends. For someone as smart as himself, he should have evaded the authorities for a longer period. In December 2013, Erkan was caught in Frankfurt, Germany for checking his emails on the hotel Wi-Fi. The police seized notebooks, several cell phones, and SIM cards in his hotel room. He also had 14,000 euros with him when he was arrested. For someone who advised members of his group to stay away from European countries, one might wonder what he was doing in Germany and why he was checking his emails on public Wi-Fi. Erkan Findikoglu was extradited to the United States and was prosecuted. During the case, his lawyer described him as an intelligent, self-educated man who as a youngster found refuge from an abusive father and a sickly mother in cybercafes and used his digital skills for illicit personal gain. By August 2008, the police had gathered all the evidence they needed for the prosecution. Erkan and 28 other persons who were suspected to be gang members were detained and prosecuted in the United States. Among the suspects were Erkan's aunt and brother. Erkan Findikoglu was charged with computer intrusion conspiracy, access device fraud conspiracy, and affecting transactions with unauthorized access devices for his leadership role in organizing and carrying out 3 cyber attacks between 2011 and 2013. He pleaded guilty to a string of cyber attacks, which resulted in the loss of $55 million through withdrawals made through compromised card payment processors and prepaid cards. Erkan Findikoglu and other gang members were sentenced to prison terms ranging from 5 to 25 years as a result of the trial. After completing his US sentence, he will be deported and is expected to also do time in Turkey.